folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard, my peeps, my peeps. Bridge MCP says hi to 2447. Bridge MCP says that Dan just read that him and the two kids, they are 21 days. Say the 21's the Supreme Court. Hey, folks. Welcome aboard, Bridge MCP, Deb Denny. Deb Denny is very, very happy. Nanette Bird Smith says, hi, PDR, how are you guys doing? And of course, we have E2247 that says, hello, relatives. It's going to be, will be greatest ever visit. For reals. I love your enthusiasm, my brother. AVQ, of course, is here with us. Standard. He has a whole lot of stuff again. Let's get busy. Alistair Walters. How are you doing, my dear, beautiful friend? Welcome aboard Politics Done Right. Nanette Birdsmith says, you sound like you are underwater. Do I sound like I'm underwater? That's not good. I thought this mic was a better mic for that. I don't know. Let's see. Do I need more volume? Is that what's up? Michael Ruddin says, talking about this, New York Attorney General can question Trump and two children. Judge rules. Former President Donald Trump and two of his children had sought to block Letitia James, the Attorney General, from interviewing them under oath. These guys think they run the world. Tell me if that is any better with the sound. I think it should be. It should be. Okay, here we go. Michael Rundin says, NOAA reports sea level along the U.S. coastline average to rise 10 to 12 inches. I read that in the next 30 years. I think it's going to be worse, though, because check out what's going on in Miami, which will be as much as the rise measured over the last 100 years. Sea level is rising, will vary regionally along the U.S. coast because of the changes in both land and ocean height. Sea level rise will create a profound shift in coastal flooding over the next 30 years by causing tide and storm surge heights to increase and reach further inland by 2050. Moderate, typically damaging flooding is expected to occur on average more than 10 times as often as it does today and can be intensified by local factors. If you doubt what that looks like, go to Florida, Miami on certain days and you just start to see water flood out of the drains, just out of the blue. Sunny day, beautiful hot day. That's what you get. Tens of millions of people already live in areas of risk of coastal flooding, with more moving to the coast every time. The report noted the population migration combined with rising sea levels and other climate impacts will increase their vulnerability. That is sad. It's true. It's coming. It's here. I think we all know it. But you know what, folks? We can do something about it. I'm going to continue reading that in a minute. I just have to get another cue going. Come on, Q. Where are you? There you are, Q. Okay, continuing to read, and it says, it will impact the vulnerability and the risk of flooding for critical infrastructure affecting such areas as transportation, energy, water, and military. According to the report, this isn't a problem for some future generation who haven't been born. It's happening in our lifetime as most of the world's populations live nearby the coast. This sea level rise will critically impact over 1 billion people worldwide, triggering a migration crisis the likes of which we've never seen nor are remotely ready for. Continuing with the narrative we have here, Michael Ronaldo estimates 73% of U.S. now immune to Omicron. Is that enough? No. About half of the eligible Americans have received booster shots. There have been nearly 80 million confirmed infections overall, and many of these infections have never been reported. One influential model uses those factors, and others estimate that 73% of Americans are for now immune to Omicron, the dominant variant, and that could rise to 80% by mid-March. Omicron COVID tore through our population so quickly. Fast burn. That's the thing. Whenever you burn in quickly, you generally burn out quickly as well. That's why, usually because you die. But in this case, it's better news. People were inoculated, so it was better. But we still have a lot of people dying every day. Biden rejects Trump's attempt to shield White House visitor logs, including for day of January 6th attack. In a letter to the National Archives, White House counsel Dana Ramos wrote, Biden has determined that a certain executive privilege is not the best interest of the United States and therefore it's not justified. As to the records and portions of records, Ramos explained the administration decision by noting that while Trump decided to block the visitor logs from the public view on claims about national security, the Biden administration voluntarily discloses such visitor logs on a monthly basis. The visitors log details access and influence over the White House and should always be part of the public record so that journalists can put two and two together whenever corruption or malfeasance shows up. I'll print that on the screen a little bit later for you, Michael, if you remind me later. Let me see what it looks like. Okay, I think I can put that up real quickly for you. I hope it doesn't blink too much, but we'll try. We'll try our best to get your screenshot on there to see what we can do as far as connecting and configuring it to show your GOP position. I think that's it right there. Let's see if that is okay. That's going to come out. We're going to blink a while, but let's let it blink. All right, so that is a screen. We haven't yet figured out the driver issues on that, but that is a graph that Brother Rudnin wanted us to put out there in case I want to move it off, in case it's going to generate a crash or something. I don't know. When things go crazy like that, it concerns me a bit. All right, continuing with our discussion here, what we got here is, all right, Michael says, I've seen this one floating around on social media, felt a need to provide a fact check. Study on SARS-CoV-2 antibodies levels following infection don't prove that the recovered patients are protected from reinfection. While it's a known fact that SARS-CoV-2 infection can protect against reinfection for some time. The levels of infection-induced immunity varies from person to person, and SARS-CoV-2 infection carries an inherent risk of severe symptoms, hospitalization, sequelae, or death. By contrast, vaccinations is a safer and effective strategy to acquire immunity and can also enhance infection-induced immunity. Sequelae is a medical term that I hadn't heard before, nor did I, meaning the long-term consequences of a disease or injury, i.e. long COVID. Also, the exact duration of post-infection natural immunity is not exactly known. Best estimates from multiple various studies shows warning. Anyhow, that's good information, Brother Rudnim. Good information as usual. You are invaluable. All right, continuing, we got Nanette Burt says something is intermittent. Alice Water says sounds good here. Bridge MCP says, yeah, his sound is a tad gurgled, clearer but louder. Okay, I need to find my daughter was telling me, Daddy, why don't you get one of those stand-up head phones? I said, God, this table, I'm in already a modified studio. Not a lot of room to put that new mic, but we'll play around with things to make it much better for you. Sounds is a little tinny with lots of treble. Yeah. And my voice isn't a trebly voice. So we'll try to get we'll probably get a larger microphone we've tried many, but we'll see. All right, let's see what else we got here. Eric Hayes says, here is your smart policy at work in LA County. The council is ready to strip the sheriff of powers for a vaccine mandate, firing 4,000 officers in a crime way would be suicide for the city. Whoa, smart leaders. Oh, I think it's a good thing if this guy thinks he doesn't want to follow policy. He wants everybody to follow his policies, right? Well, there's a policy that folks said, take the vaccine. You don't want it? That's fine. Leave. Has nothing to do with crime. Message to the radicals from all the draconian measures and power push done that last year, etc. Since being in office, the time is up and can't unhide what has been done through policymakers. So now saying the opposite, like you support security and hard. Oh, we've always supported security. It is in the figment of the imagination on the right that somehow the left is soft on crime. We are not soft on crime. We are just humane. We just don't believe in bullying people and killing people. Tom C. sounds okay now, much better than echo chamber of right-wing media. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. Eric Hayes says there's a growing sense among Democrats that it's time for a change of course at the White House, whether that means new strategy or new staffers on the political front. President Joe Biden's numbers aren't getting any better. His message isn't resonating. Of course it's not resonating. Look, what Biden and the company has not realized is that there is a machine out there intent on lying to people. I mean, look how effective it has worked on you, Mr. Hayes. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers, if Trump had the numbers that Biden had or has, Trump would be flying through the air and he would be bragging. Democrats don't know how to do that. So what we are going to do is we are going to do it for them. So be having a lot of stories of real things that are happening in the economy and real declines and deficits that we have as a society. I'll be putting that out, and a lot of other independents will be doing the same as well. Well, hopefully, we may not get you on board, Eric Hayes, because you have a particular prejudice, but we're likely to get most clear thinking Republicans, or enough clear thinking Republicans, to ensure that we don't have a false revolution, meaning a false change in government in November. I still think this is up in the air. I don't think it's written. I do think the Democrats hold on to the House and the Senate, and I want them to start acting that way and start doing things to ensure that happens. Melanie Keelan says, "I'm here," and thank you for being here, dear Melanie. Eric Hayes says, "My wife given 19 boxes of N95 masks to give out for free seems too little too late. Maybe the administration should invest in therapeutic treatment instead of masks." No, they should invest in both. Mass has a purpose, and that's where limited thinking is a problem. Mass has their purpose. Daniel Ledo says, "I wonder if he will talk about the rejection of progressive values in San Francisco." We talked about that yesterday. And that wasn't a rejection of progressive values, that was a rejection of stupid values. Why would you have a school that is meant to work with people who want to really be just absolutely ahead and just say we will make it solely by lottery? You don't do that. If you have a school for kids who want to be in advanced courses, you may want to have a lottery just for all the kids that are capable of doing it, not just blanket a place and say this is a. So I mean, there are a lot of things like that. Again, you have to stop looking at things at the macro level on these issues that the right wing would like you to do. The right wing leadership, they are not very smart. Well, they are very smart, and they just assume that their people who follow them are very dim. Have you tried IO Bit Driver Booster to fix this? No, I haven't, because those fixes usually aren't effective for rather complicated setups that I have. But I haven't tried it, but maybe I should. Maywood says, "Hello, everyone from Longwood Beach." Oh, hello, my dear brother Maywood. Eric Hayes says, "Both injections and natural are beneficial, just balance of the two." I don't know the complete things, but I do know that the one that the one that's given the mRNA have better profiles for handling different types of COVID. Unlike if you get COVID for one, you may not have resistance for the other. Tom C says, U.S. excess deaths during pandemic has surpassed 1 million, and COVID killing most, but other diseases adding to the toll. CDC says still average of 2,200 U.S. COVID deaths per day. That's a shame. All right, let's see. Berto has the typical great radio voice. Oh, really, Eric? Thank you, brother. I love you for that. Eric says soften crime. False, Eric. Even though I love you, you're absolutely wrong. Let's see what else we got here. Brija CP says they said the 3 shots should do for now, but expect a fourth. My daughter is going to get a fourth because she's immunosuppressed because of the steroid that she's taken to reduce the swelling in her brain after the stroke. So, yeah, fourth is going to miss her. I'll probably get the fourth to make sure that I minimize the effect of possibly infecting her. Let's see. Daniel Ado, this one from Redden, and I figure since Daniel brought up, I better read it. It says, "Daniel Ado, this one's for you. San Francisco School Board recall wasn't a rejection of progressive politics. It's easy to drool over the storyline that the most progressive city in America just ousted 3 progressive school members. But disagreements over politics had little to do with San Francisco parents' decision to push for the first local recall in 39 years. Many, in fact, agreed with the broader goals of the 3 ousted board members. There were disputes over methodology, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a recall supporter who didn't speak openly about wanting to close the racial achievement gaps in academic performance that recall commissioners Addison Collins, Gabriela Lopez, and Faruga Moliga as said they prioritize. I agree. Lee Grant says hard on cops, soft on crime. Nope. We just want honesty. And I got a video that I'm going to show you guys in a little bit that I think prove everything that we've always said. British MCP says E2247, the difference is the U.S. is telling everyone now what we know. Back then, the U.S. didn't share with NATO. Rose Williams says, "Hi, everyone. Can't find comment line on FB. What's wrong, Sister Rose? It should be there." How you doing, Rose? I saw you yesterday after I closed the session, and I don't think I saluted you. So you are getting a triple salute from Egberto today. Rose Williams, welcome aboard. Rose William, we love you. Thank you for being here. Eric Hayes says no one is wearing mask or anything. They want to be free and think for themselves. Yeah, I know they can be free to die. I get you, brother. That false freedom that the right likes to speak about is amazing. Since they're so they so love the corporation, which is one of the most communist institutions there is. Not communist, actually, a fascist institution that there is, and you like it. It always bewildered me, But hey, who am I? All right, Daniel Little say a lot of other independents will do as well. LOL. So a bunch of vloggers all parrot the same thing at the same time, and he actually believe he is independent. Yes, independent. Independents also follow values that are coincident with them. So that's what we do. Yes, we do. All right, Michael Ronis says, Alberto, if you're running a Windows-based computer, doesn't matter how complex you mod up your system, IO Bit Booster will update your system to all the newest drivers for every piece of hardware you have installed. All right, Michael, I hope you're selling IO Bit because you just convinced me to try it. Okay, brother? Love you, man. Deb Denny, 02247, you'd actually believe the Kremlin's narrative, especially if they're talking about the Donbas region. This area is controlled by Russian lackeys. They threw out Ukrainian officials. Rose Williams says, because I can't comment on FB. There you go, Rose, but I see your comment now. British MCP say, yeah, like I said, couldn't yesterday. All right, let's see what else I got here. E2247 says, civilization, colonization, extermination. Any questions? 21st century authoritarian GOP values. Wow. All right, Danielle says the pandemic is over. We now have to get the reality through the heads of those traumatized with those false fears. It's not false fears. The debt shows that you show the video of the NJ Kids police. That was obvious. I am going to do that just because you asked, and I'm going to stop my comment. Keep on commenting. I want to show you this video. Let's go ahead and prep it. One of the things that people always talk about, right? Whenever we talk about police bias, people say, "Oh, it's in your imagination." But they don't only say that it's in our imagination, they make it believe like the circumstances were different. What I love about this video that I'm going to show you right now is we didn't have to talk about different circumstances. We just knew several things. We knew the police approached two fighting teens. We know the police did not know which teen instigated the violence. And we know that the police showed two distinctly different ways of dealing with the teens. When we've talked about having to teach put more money elsewhere, this is why we're saying, because the police is inherently an institution that has prejudice within its core. I want you to watch this, and then we'll take it on the other side. You cannot now say, oh, it's different circumstances, because this was the same event. Check this out.
You're talking to an angel. Get up. Get up. Get up. You go outside right now. You go outside right now. You're talking to an angel. What are you going to do? You know I can have my face. Oh, shit. Come outside. Come outside. Oh, shit.
Yo.
No, bro. Chill. Brian, get out. Brian, leave. Holy. Holy shit. Oh no. Holy. Yo, it's because he's black. Racially motivated.
Now, if that doesn't tell the entire story, two teenagers fighting, the police approach. The police doesn't know who threw the first punch, if it's just a regular combined dispute with both of them just as guilty or what. What they do is they kindly put the white kid to sit down in the chair. They leave him alone. He's not a threat. And they jump on the back of the black kid, pin him down. After the other cop, instead of staying with the other perpetrator of violence, what did they do? They went and put their knees on the back of the black kid. Now, this is the same event. Many times, whenever we bring these stories up, people say, "Oh my God, these are different storylines. You can't compare apples and oranges." Well, this was the same event. And, for those who say, "Oh, this is one instance," we have seen this repeated over and over and over again. And it gets old when we constantly have to hear that this isn't real. But let me tell you what I want to do. Before we continue, I'm going to play our interview with that I want to get today with this politician. And then I'll come back and we will further discuss this particular issue. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis. Today we have a very special guest. She is running to defeat an incumbent, a strong one at that, Senate District 15, the one and only John Whitmire. So who do we have with us? None other than Molly Cook. Molly, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Well, let me tell you something. When you decided to join this race and you decided to go big, didn't you?
I did. It felt right.
Well, not only did it feel right, it is time. The time is actually right for us to change the definition of leadership in this country. So I'm happy that that you're doing this. First of all, let's start a little bit about tell me a little about you. What kind of person are you? How'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up? That sort of thing.
Oh, great. So I grew up in the northwest suburbs. I grew up in Spring near Klein High School with my parents, older brother, younger sister. And I went to high school in the Woodlands at College Park High School. Most people don't know that one, but high school in the Woodlands. And then I did undergrad at UT and actually started as a music performance major and ended up switching into nursing. It didn't feel right to spend time in a practice room by myself for hours a day. I really wanted to be a nurse and achieve what was basically a childhood dream of being a nurse. And the first time I ever wanted to be a nurse was in 7th grade. And my pastor's wife was there's my dog.
Hey, it's real. It's good. It's good. It's real. We're real.
The pastor's wife at my church was actually the nurse at my junior high. And I spent a lot of time in her office and I saw her respond when a kid actually cracked his head open on the playground one time. And this is gross little TMI, but she came in carrying like a trash bag full of like blood. And I thought that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I want to be the person that you call when an emergency happens. And so that seed was planted and I did end up becoming an emergency room nurse, which was my dream.
Well, especially in these times, I think there are two professions that I really revere. That is teaching and nursing. And the reason why is that you just look at the history of the things of what we need right now, and those are just our basic needs. Now, you decided to well, first of all, activism isn't new for you at all. Tell us a little bit about how you've engaged the community before. Many people think, decide I want to be a politician and I just go in there and I want to get votes. But very few people really deserve the right to earn the vote. Tell us some of the things that you've done.
Yeah. So when I moved back, I got let me start. I was an emergency room nurse because I wanted to be able to deal with emergencies, but also because you get to really understand what's going on with folks. I always say that the emergency room in jail is where people end up when we don't know what else to do for them. And it was very eye-opening. And so I was motivated to learn more about how I could help people and got a master's in public health. And when I moved back to Houston, ready to get to work, I was looking for ways to get involved in air quality. And that's how I found my way to the I-45 fight. And the I-45 fight has been the most meaningful and fulfilling work of my entire life. And it's been really exciting because we've been really successful. That project is still not expanded. And B, we worked across diverse groups, across the city, county, every area affected by I-45, and worked together lockstep, which, a lot of people talk about nonprofit work. People end up siloed, they don't work together well. We didn't see that at all. It's been really, really cooperative work. with a lot of people. And what I was excited to bring to that fight, I remember showing up to the first meeting and saying, well, is this an election issue? It was during our city elections at that time. And then they were like, will you chair the elections committee? So, you show up, you end up in charge of something. But anyway, and that was kind of the first thing I offered. And then we did a bunch of door knocking. So I organized, I said, why aren't there residents in this room who are directly affected? And so I organized door knocking, and we went out, and this was largely in 2020 too, when the pandemic was kind of in full throw for all of us. We didn't know what was going on, but door knocking was still a safe activity to do. So we spent a lot of time organizing that. We hit as many doors as we possibly could that would be affected by the expansion. Started translating everything into Spanish so we could reach folks in the language they preferred to be reached in. And the group grew, and we built a real grassroots resistance. It was very exciting.
Now, SD15, you get elected. You won the election, and you not only win the primary, but eventually you win the whole thing, and you go to Austin, and you're going to support that particular district. There's a whole lot of needs in the entire state of Texas, but specific to your district. What's one of the first things that you intend to go ahead and do for your constituents and the constituents of Texas? As a senator, you're responsible for the whole darn state.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first things, and so if I win in the primary, we have a safety district, and I won't stop campaigning. We have to make sure, right, this doesn't flip. But I will have the opportunity to start fundraising and knocking doors for other candidates who will have a more competitive general. So that would be very exciting to continue to get out the vote in the district and make sure that our Democrats are showing up and feeling powerful at the polls, and then moving into the session as well. And of course, I'll start preparing for the session. What kind of bills do we want to submit on day one, and who do we want to partner with, and what kind of relationships are we building? With a public health background, I have a unique preparedness to really look at what are the needs and what are the assets of the district. Why are there problems? Where are there successes, and how can we build on those? So that is the work that would begin after the March primary if I were to win. And it really is a very diverse district in every sense of the word. In this neighborhood, you only hear about flooding. In this neighborhood, you hear about schools. In this neighborhood, you hear about displacement. And in every neighborhood, you do hear about voting rights. It's a big concern that's been at every single door. So all of those issues are near and dear to my heart. I want to focus on public health and public safety, and what that means can be very broad, right? What makes us healthy, what makes us safe. And it's not just the obvious things a lot of the time, and it's things like environmental justice. And that's sort of the why we do anything. It needs to be equitable. It needs to be outcomes focused. So environmental justice is a core value. And then I believe in the power of organizing. And that will be something that I would bring that I see missing from the Texas Senate, is really a focus on organizing, on making sure that whoever is in Austin, folks feel powerful to advocate for themselves, are educated on the process and where they can be involved and where they can speak up for themselves, and then supporting people in advocating for themselves, and making contacts across the state so we can shape change in whatever issue areas are important to folks.
Now, Molly, that's a candidate and the candidate message. Every single candidate, not only on the state level, not only on the local level, but on a national level, that's what I would like to hear out of them, that they are going out there to organize, and they're going to talk to the people, bring the people in. One of the problems that I find that we have is people all want to govern in the abstract. They don't want to go into the neighborhoods. They don't want to go into the barrios. They don't want to go into the ghettos or all these other places. And it seemed to me like you're ready and willing to go. Now, when the Chronicle decided to endorse, I wanted to get a full picture of all these issues, and I found it a bit insulting and pathetic that one of the reasons to keep somebody in office is he's been there and he has experience of having been there, without saying, did he fight for monies that was already allocated for Texas, the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, which because as a state we have refused it, has continued to kill a bunch of Texans. You don't have to use those words. You're a politician now, and you're responsible for knowing how to say things. But in that light, we have a legislature in Austin that does not have the best interests of the citizens at hand. How are you going to use your power of organizing to let people understand? Because let me back up. This is a long question, but I have to ask it in this manner. If Texans are intelligent, our population's intelligent, just uninformed or misinformed, there is money on the table already paid for by Texans to give all our indigent care, to give those with a low salary care. Nobody knows it, and nobody is telling our citizens that. How do you intend to do it without allowing them to caricature your support for such a bill?
I would be so excited to go around the state to make sure people are aware, to go into every neighborhood. I see a lot of opportunities, specifically with Medicaid expansion, transportation reform. I can tell you with total confidence that there are a lot of people mad at TxDOT across the state in all kinds of different communities, whether that is suburban, urban, or rural. And then, of course, with education, the state is failing all of us in all three issue areas, and people are upset about it. Whether it's broadband access or Medicaid expansion, the people want it. 70% of Texans want Medicaid expansion, but I think fewer than 45% even knew that we were one of 12 states to opt out of it. There's, like you're saying, there's an education gap there. So I am a working person. I'm a nurse. I clock in and out of my job. I see what's going on with folks. I'm doing the real work. And I feel confident that I could make a difference going into communities and making sure people know. And, if there's a Republican legislator or a Democratic legislator who is not representing the will of their people, then let's talk to their people. Let's have people talk to people and shift power. I'm not interested in holding on to power and keeping it centralized. I'm interested in making the people powerful so that we can really shape this change. So I think it looks like getting in your car, going down the road and talking to people and doing that nurturing and loving work that it takes to build an organization.
Now, as a nurse and someone who knows it, it seems like you are, I don't know how it's said in English, sumamente cualificada, as you are ultimately, you're definitely qualified to challenge the current senator on that particular issue, and not only that, to garner support from his base on specifically on healthcare, but all the other issues that you just mentioned, both transportation and otherwise. Do you have the resources to really take care of getting your message out in the form that reaches all those who are voting?
I would say yes. And I would, our campaign has already showed that, I can proudly say that today we've knocked over 47,000 doors. And that is with a pretty much all volunteer team. We've definitely fairly compensate the canvassers who are working for us, but everybody else is a volunteer on the team. And we've knocked that many doors. We have over 100 volunteers. So that is, that's just the campaign. That's us starting day one with $0 and one volunteer, right? And that's the movement we've been able to make since December 13th. And the district is being reached in ways that it's never been reached before. The incumbent's website is still only in English. Ours is in English and Spanish. And with a little more resources, we'll get it in Vietnamese so that we can reach more people and more languages. We have spoken to people like a woman in Spring Branch who told us her door has never been knocked on before. So the work of earning trust is slow, right? You have to show up, and you have to show up over and over again, and you have to give before you expect to receive, and you have to be willing to show people, make them feel heard. And the way they feel heard is by you acting on what they've told you, right? So I'm really confident in my abilities, basically with or without resources, to do this work, because I've been doing this work. But with resources that would come with the state Senate seat, I know that we can make change.
Well, look, I always ask, this is the last question, and it's a free for all for you. And that is, tell me, what would you have liked me to ask you, whether 1, 2, 3, 10 questions that you want to concentrate in one answer, and let me know, let the audience know what they need to know about you and how they can reach you.
Okay, I would say just what's the most, because a lot of people ask what's your main priority, right? And the answer really is that it's not my priorities, it's whatever the priority of the people are. So the way I kind of translate that is bottom up planning. So whether we're talking about policies, projects, or programs, we have to take a bottom up approach to planning, and we don't do that in Texas. It's very top down. And to do bottom up, you have to center affected communities from the very beginning. So if you're building a freeway, you don't come in 20 years into designing it and ask them where they want an exit. You show up day one and say, hey, you would lose your homes. What should we do? So that is my value. I really do believe that people are smart and people need to be involved, that diversity creates the best outcomes, and that everyone needs a seat at the table. And I'm committed to that. And then to find us and to find out more, you can go to mollyfortexas.com. All words, no numbers, mollyfortexas.com. And then we're Molly for Texas across all social media as well. And you can really get a feel for who I am and what we're working on.
Molly Cook, the State Senate District 15. She's going to be known pretty soon, maybe, as the incumbent killer. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I think she is a stunning young lady. And Daniel Ledo, I am going to just address your comment because I want, I want to show people something that's always done. Molly is a very intelligent woman. She's a registered nurse. She wants to do something for the community. She has been in the community. She's an activist that's been doing a whole lot of good for people. And the first comment Daniel Ledo could make of her is, well, with such fair skin, why does she have the bright red lipstick on? You know what? Because she likes it. Because she feels that's who she is. And you know what? I think she's a beautiful woman with her red lipsticks on and her fair skin because that's what she likes. I think it's pleasant to the eye as well, but it didn't really matter what the hell I think or what Daniel Ledo thinks. She is her own woman. I think she has proven that throughout. Thank you very much for that interview, Miss Cook. I enjoyed it, and you are going places. Thank you. Anyhow, let's continue. Previously, I mentioned about the video that we showed you about the police officers bringing down the people. A lot of bringing down the black kid while the white kid sat on the chair. You know, they always talk about the reason why they use that overpowering force is to protect the cops against the potential of somebody getting hurt. Well, these were two teenagers, right? Fighting with their hands. You remember the olden days, that's how we used to do it? I don't know about you guys, but in the olden days, yeah, I used to enjoy doing the little fight here and there. That's what these guys were doing. In fact, the black kid was protecting, from what I understand, a kid from being bullied by the white guy. And in the fight, in the process, the cops pull the white kid off, puts him in the chair, and forgets about him. He could have been armed. He could have had a gun. He could have had a knife. And then they jumped on the back of the black kid. And note, when they came, the white kid was on top of the black kid, beating the black kid, right? So it's not like you can say, oh, the black kid was overpowering the other guy. The only difference that was in that particular story was that we saw how the police react to two boys in a fight. Everything else equal, and they were nice to one, and they treated the other one like an animal. This is a constancy. And have you noticed that Daniel Ledo and Eric Hayes, they haven't spoken about the behavior of those cops? I would love to hear their thoughts, because they're always defending them, right? See, those are the cops that I know. Those are the cops that I know. That's how most of the cops that I know act. I'm not talking about my cousin who is a cop himself. Egberto Willis, please respond to Daniel Ledo's need to use foul language to the point of detriment to your show. Mr. Ledo, it would be kind. I try to have everybody talk among each other. Please don't offend the audience with using obscenities. I didn't see it in Nanette Birdsmith. I didn't see the obscenities. Maybe I hadn't read that one. but I think we can be civil with each other. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Let's see what else we got here. I'll keep on reading these things during the other thing that I want to play, but I want to play Farid Zakaria. This is important. Farid Zakaria points out that Denmark, the people who acted responsibly, and had we acted responsibly, we could have been Denmark. Take a look at how Denmark has turned out and how the chosen country, the exceptional country, has. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
On the 1st of this month, more than 2 years after the discovery of the first cases of COVID-19, Denmark became the first country in the European Union to lift all COVID restrictions. Gone are the indoor mask mandates. Gone are the isolation requirements for the infected. If 2 years of fear, uncertainty, and loss had crushed Danes' spirits, it was not apparent the first weekend the restrictions were lifted, when they flocked to nightclubs. This might seem alarming, but the truth is that the country's response to the pandemic thus far has been in many ways exemplary. In 2020, when the world knew little about the virus and how it spread, Denmark was one of the first countries in Europe to lock down. But as the New York Times notes, since then the country has adopted a very flexible approach to COVID restrictions that the public has by and large supported. There were no draconian curfews. Guidance to socially distance and mask was generally followed, in part because it was often re-evaluated. Officials, including the Prime Minister, held regular televised press conferences about the pandemic, and there was little talk of a vaccine mandate, nor did there have to be. 81% of Danes are fully vaccinated. That compares to just 64% of Americans. So how did Denmark do it? The key may lie in the fact that the country has long had high levels of trust in the government, and citizens have high levels of trust in one another. According to a new study in The Lancet that compares caseloads in 177 countries and territories from January 2020 to September of last year, those are the two most significant factors that are associated with low numbers of infections of COVID-19. This is an important finding. Siddhartha Mukherjee once called COVID an epidemiological mystery because it confounds conventional wisdom about which countries should fare better in a pandemic, namely rich ones. According to the New Lancet study, the rankings of the famous or infamous Johns Hopkins Global Health Security Index for the countries that were theoretically best prepared for a pandemic had no correlation with either the COVID case counts or the proportion of those infections that led to deaths. The authors looked at a dizzying array of metrics to find out what did. They looked at population level factors, age, body mass index, smoking habits. They looked at environmental factors, air pollution, altitude, even the number of bat species living in each location. They looked at structural factors, democracy, populism, levels of economic inequality. Age had the most significant link to fatality rates among countries, of course, but according to the study, the two factors that had the most statistically significant link to case numbers were citizens' trust in the government and trust in each other. Not inequality, not democracy, not even the effectiveness of the government or how much it spent on health. So the US, with historically low levels of government trust and a high degree of political polarization, had 545 cases per 1,000 citizens. Canada, which fares better in terms of trust, had just 346. Denmark, where one estimate shows 90% of the population trusts its government, had just 166. But it's not just rich countries that demonstrate this trend. As the Washington Post reports, Vietnam has a closed single-party political system and few hospital beds for its population, but it has a high degree of trust in the government. And it had 67 cases per 1,000 individuals, just 67, from January 2020 to September of last year. The study found that if every country had the level of trust that Danes do in their government, the global caseload might have been nearly 13% lower. If every global citizen had as much trust in his countrymen as the South Koreans, we might have had 40% fewer cases. Combined, that would have meant 440 million fewer coronavirus cases, according to Tom Boyke, one of the paper's authors. We all bemoan the lack of trust in the United States these days, but this shows how, in an emergency, a lack of trust in social capital can actually cost lives, hundreds of thousands of lives.
Willis, as host of Politics Done Right, a progressive radio media show on Pacifica Network's KPFT 90.1 FM Houston that engages all ideologies, I found that our political angst isn't mostly ideological. There is a well-designed effort by many in power to control us. If we are at each other's throats, we are less likely to demand our economic and local wishes. In that light, I wrote 3 books. I wrote the first one titled, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, to describe the entire economy in a manner we can all understand. It highlights why it was designed to pilfer most as it empowers a few, the chosen. The second book, titled It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, take it to the next level. After understanding how the system pilfers, it is incumbent that we can speak to our peers to empower a change. The third book, How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, gives us a place to land. After learning about our economy that is dysfunctional for most and learning how to engage the other side, we point out what would make an economy that works for all. Each book stands on its own, but together they provide the full picture. Please consider getting one or more. You will undoubtedly learn, be entertained, and help us continue the mission with our blogs, articles, videos, and books. Anyway, folks, thank you so kindly. Please remember, go to click that join button to become a member via YouTube, but you can always go to politicsandright.com/YouTube, politicsandright.com/YouTube. Support us on Patreon as well, politicsandright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon, Patreon, or politicsandright.com/PayPal, politicsandright.com/PayPal. Everybody knows how to speak PayPal. How to speak, give through PayPal. And of course, we have some new stuff at our store. Please check it out and try it out. We have a lot of new stuff. politicsandright.com/store, politicsandright.com/store, and get those books that I just talked about at politicsandright.com/books. politicsandright.com/books. And of course, if you want the all-encompassing way that shows all the different options that you have to support us, politicsdoneright.com/support. Welcome aboard, Peggy Lopez. Welcome aboard. I saw some other new folks in here. Breach MCP says, I curse way too much. It's where and when and what you say before it, like the lipstick comment. Now let's move on. Yeah, I'm going to move on from the curse. I don't try to control people's languages. I try to ask people to be civil with each other. I also try to tell people to please go ahead and by the way, Tijuana, I don't block people. I respect people too much to block them. If you have the desire to come and be a part of us, why would I want to block you? I'm honored, all of you, including the foul-mouthed one. But I ask you, hey, try not to use the foul to offend another human being. Okay? I mean, it's just a matter of loving your neighbor. That's all. No biggie, right? Tiala, I don't agree with what everyone says or does, but they still have the right to be who they are. And I'm with you 100%, Miss Wilson. Let's see what else we got here. The duck that quacks. How you doing, my brother? I had 4 negative interactions with local police in New Jersey. One great one with him. Let me be frank. I've had several good interactions with cops. In fact, I got a cop commended because of how well he treated me. I blogged about it. I threw it up on the radio on KPFT 90.1, and his sergeant heard about it, called me up or emailed. I don't remember what happened, but after speaking to me and reading my blog, that particular officer got a commendation for being a good officer after I reported about it. So, I report the good and the bad. But the problem is that there are too many of them that are bad. And when I say too many that are bad, even those that don't do anything bad but are complicit, they are bad. Okay? Because if they know of what's going on and they allow it to continue and they don't report it through the grapevine or whatever, they're bad. What happened to that young kid immediately showed that 14-year, I think it was 14 or something like that. Those 2 kids learned something very important from adults. They learned something very important. You may just look at it as, okay, the black kid got thrown in front, the cops made a mistake. But he didn't only make a mistake. He showed a supremacy in the thought process of teenagers, every single one of them watching there. Every single one of them say, what's the point? What's the point of being good? It was said that the black kid was defending another kid. Another kid. Okay? What's the point in being good? He may go and say, look at this. I am doing good, and I am the one that slammed on the ground, thrown handcuffs thrown on. What's the point? So when these police officers do bad, when they show their vile racism and they do bad, it doesn't only affect that particular incident, but every kid that was watching know that if I do this I can get away with it, and he doesn't. That's why you can have that woman in Central Park saying, when she got mad at this black guy who told her to be quiet with her dog or something with her dog, she wanted to lash back. And she just said, hey, I'm going to call the cops and said you said that you try to attack me or whatever. She already knew what was going to what would have happened. That's what it's all about. And that's what those kids who watched that learned as well. There's a distinct difference in policing in America. And for all those folks that go out there and want to put their heads in the sand and, oh, it's not true, it's your imagination, or the situations are different. This particular incident showed differences were not there. In fact, you saw from the beginning the white guy as the aggressor, and the black guy paid for it through the cops. Why, what's to give? When these guys throw their hands up in the air and say, why be good? Doesn't pay. That's how some of them would look at it. I am there to tell them, you always be good. You always be moral. You always do the right thing. But that one incident with those cops proved to them that they were the lesser being, that those cops treated, not they were the lesser being, those cops treated them like the lesser being. Let me guess, y'all still believe the Russian collusion lie, proven lies. Why are we talking about Russian collusion lies? Anyhow, let's see, any other things that you guys have in here, because I have another video, but I don't have enough time left. So let's see what else is in the thread here. Throw something in the thread, whatever you want me to talk about, guys. Whatever you want me to talk about, throw it in the thread. Let's see what we got. They followed it because they care for each other. Tiala Wallace, whoever said that they report people opinions, that one. All right, going down. The Duck That Quack says Putin paid the NRA to support the GOP. That is a proven fact. What else have we got? Anybody else has a E2247? Our world is in danger. Traditional certainties are crumbling. Threats and vulnerabilities are multiplying, and the rules-based order is increasingly under attack. True. Breach MCP says, Egberto, it also makes those white kids standing around yelling nigga empowered, like the cops are with them. You know? Breach, you actually said something that I hadn't thought about, but you're absolutely right, girlfriend. You're absolutely right. I didn't think about that one, because I mean that one, the N-word has such little effect on me. I mean, it still have a lot of effect on a lot of folk, right? And in fact, I have some organizations that I'm in, they completely disagree with my stance. I believe that a lot of times we give the word power because we actually acknowledge it. For me, somebody calls me by the N-word, I look at them and I said, you must be having a bad day, or I know you're not speaking to me, or am I reflecting in a mirror or something? Or, when I tell you that the word means so little to me, absolutely, it has no meaning. I mean, you know how people get bent up. In other words, if you want to get somebody black or whatever bent up, call them the N-word, and they go into a panic or they go into a rage. I generally feel a little bit of sorry for the person saying it. Is that the word to use? Like, I feel for you, you poor thing. Tiala Wilson said, we need to love and respect each other for who we are, or we will never be able to unite. Girl, you're absolutely right. It will always be little stupid things that separate us. Divided, we fall every time. And that's why even the people that give hell in this room, I figure that my way of being will eventually, the honesty of my truths, honesty of what I do, will ultimately win them over. Not necessarily like, oh, I've seen the light. Not that kind of a thing at all. Anyhow, Daniel Lado says, Egberto, I think Breed should likewise be admonished for using a disgusting racial slur, brother. Uh, if you think I'm going to admonish my beautiful friend, you have another thing going. I know Bridge MCP's heart. I know who Bridge MCP is. Bridge MCP is one of our stalwarts in here. And if you think that anybody can compare and say that somehow she has some ill feelings toward anything, you are blind. Hey, Bridge, you know you're my girl. All right, Nola VZ. Hey, Nola, my cousin, how you doing? There's a psychological price that black and brown kids experience when the situations that show a clear disparity in treatment. Nola. That is what I was trying to say. Now, you are the expert. You are the PhD. I've read it. You have lived it. So you understand what I'm saying, and you can explain it much better than I possibly could, how that actually works. So thank you for bringing in that point into the process, Nola Vizi, mi prima PhD. I think it's psychology, right? Well, anyway, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see, Egberto, thank you for your efforts and for your work. Muchísimas gracias, hermano. Bridge MCP said, LOL, I was quoting the video. LOL. Bridge, you don't have anything to explain. We know who you are. And now your hypocrisy. It's not hypocrisy, it's reality. Michael says, quoting someone else for pointing out racism isn't deserving of admonishment. Bridge MCP laughs. Egberto, you are good and honest, but we should all respect different opinions, so it's good to have this forum. I've never, ever taken you out of here, have I? I love the difference in opinions. Look, I have Republican relatives, Democratic relatives, white relatives, black relatives, Latino relatives, traditional relatives. I have every kind of relative possible. My family is not a homogeneous family at all. So, and you know what's the funniest part about it? We all get along. We like to fight. We like to argue. We like to have fun together. We get along. And you say, Miss PhD, prima es mi primita. Regarding the last video, Denmark COVID cases are spiking after all restrictions have been lifted. A lesson for the US, if Americans believe they're done with COVID, COVID may not be done with us. So true, Tom, so true. Anyway, folks, it's 5 o'clock, which means I need to get the hell out of here. But please remember, support the show. I'm going to only give you one link right now. All the links are in politicsdoneright.com/support. Politicsdoneright.com/support is the way you can support the show. Remember, the other guys have megabucks from the plutocracy, megabucks from the Koch brothers. They have Coke. You know who we have? You. They have Coke. We have you. Nola Vizi says, yeah, we get along because we are critical thinkers. You got that right, my beautiful cousin. The Duck That Quack says, recently read Democrats in rural PA are being forced underground by MAGA terrorists. We'll fix that. COVID, we all have to live with it. All right, Michael Rodnan says, bye-bye. Nanette Bird-Smith says, Team Ashley Strong. Thank you, Egberto. You know I love you, Nanette Bird-Smith. I love all of you guys. Let's keep doing this. Please remember, we're going to change the world because it starts one person at a time. For those of you who haven't yet, check me out at kpft.org. That is where I do the show on air, actually, Politics on Right on air at kpft.org. That air today at 12, tomorrow air at 11 a.m. Central Time. Folks, my name is Egberto Willies. And you all know how I'm going to get out of here. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.